Okay. Okay, this meeting of the Moana neighborhood board for January 28th, 2025 is now called to order. Before we go into roll call, I'm turning it over to member Mariano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could we all please rise? As we talk about our first responders, and particularly the fire department and HPD and also EMS, unfortunately, we lost one of our own. So just want to rise to give a moment of silence to firefighter Jeffrey Fiala, who just had his service this past week. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, member Mariano. And again, welcome to everyone to our first meeting of the year. Thank you for spending your Tuesday evening with us. Roll call. Spencer, if you could help us out.
Check, 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 check. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Hello, everybody. Okay, quick roll call. Rodney Chang.
Here.
Jason Chi. Karen Chung. Emma Davis. Lori Farinas. Caroline Faringer. Lynn Mariano. Gian Rice. Dale Vanderbrink. And Chair Kathleen Lee.
Here, thank you, Mr. Spencer Johnson, for the roll call. Moving on to public safety reports. First one up is Honolulu Fire Department, who also sends us the report at the beginning of the month. So thank you for being here in person.
Hello, good evening. On behalf of Moana Fire Station, we're representing. So, information previously requested, there was nothing bullet pointed here. So, skip down. Incident statistics for December 2024. First section is fires. Structure fires, we had 0. Wildland or brush fires, we had 0. Nuance fires, we had 2. Cooking fires, 0. Activated alarms, no fires, 20. Next section is emergencies. Medical emergencies, we had 164 in December. Motor vehicle collision with pedestrian, 0. Motor vehicle crash collision, we had 5. Mountain rescues, 0. Ocean rescues, 0. Hazardous materials incidents, we had 2. Bullet point here, we have nuance fires includes rubbish fires outside a structure or vehicle. Fire safety tips and announcements. This month is going to be fire safety tip is appliance and electrical safety. Minimize electrical fire risk in your home with these safety tips. Electrical work should only be performed by a qualified electrician. Check your electrical cords. If they are cracked or damaged, replace them. Do not overload wall outlets or power strips, and use certified power strips that meet safety standards. Extension cords should not be used long-term. They are designed for temporary use only. Follow the manufacturer's instructions for all appliances. For more information, safety tips, and checklists, visit fire.honolulu.gov. So,
Thank you. Questions from the board? Thank you for being here this evening.
mahalo.
Honolulu Police Department, Lieutenant Arnold Segusho and team.
Good evening, Chair Lee and everyone in attendance. Lieutenant Arnold Segusi. I'm here with Sergeant Aaron Ostachuk. We're going to be the Honolulu Police Department District 1 contingency for this evening. I know you guys have a really busy agenda, so I'm going to get right into the stats, and Aaron's going to give it. Yes.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for welcoming me. Once again, my name is Sergeant Aaron Ostachuk. So for the month of December, we had 17 motor vehicle thefts, The previous month was 15. For burglaries, we had 6. The previous month was 7. For thefts, we had 80. Previous month was 85. Unauthorized entry to motor vehicles was 24. The previous was 32. Assaults was 18. The previous was 26. Sex assaults was 3. The previous month was also 3. Graffiti incidences 1. The previous month was also 1. And drugs was 12. And the previous month was 6. I'm new to this, so I work from 6 p.m. to about 1900, which is 7 p.m. I'll be kind of taking over a little bit here, taking in place Lieutenant Segusio. I'll let him tell you why in a few minutes. But I would just like to open this moment to introduce myself. I've been working in this district for the last 5 years, so I'm well aware of the problems and issues we do have. I'm very aware, also knowledgeable in any questions you might have. And I'd like to open up this time for any questions you may have asked of me.
Thank you. Lieutenant Segusio.
At this time, there's no criminal breaches to report. I know the UMVs listed down were actually down, and it was kind of unusual because normally during the December season, it kind of peaks. So I just wanted also to highlight some great work done by the ATV and bike detail. Officers were out investigating and arrested a robbery first suspect in the area. So the incident occurred in the area of the bathrooms at Moana Beach Park on December 19th at about 6:50 p.m. 2 male individuals went into the bathroom into a stall. It was not clearly established why they were both in the stall, but one of the males had brandished a knife and robbed the victim of his personal belongings. The bike and ATV detail, led by Sergeant Sean Cavaco and Sergeant John Fontanilla, were in the area, immediately responded to the area, located a possible suspect, and that possible suspect was positively ID'd and arrested for the offense. HPD or District 1 anyway, we're going to try to see if we can expand our bike and ATV detail because it's actually working very well for us in the Kakako and Ala Moana Beach Park area. So just the mere presence of these people, of our people like this in the area have reduced a lot of crime. So we're going to try to see if we can continue to do that. And then for the safety tip of the month of January, we're going to be speaking about impaired drivers and aggressive driving. Impaired and aggressive driving is reportedly about 90% of the cause of most accidents resulting in major injuries and death. I'm just reporting this because as of January 25th, we already have 6 traffic fatalities for the island. So it's really important that we encourage our community members not to drink and drive. Just have a designated driver and don't drive impaired. And for these aggressive drivers, please try to be driving with aloha. I mean, we all got places to go, but let's get there safely. And before I yield back the rest of my time, I just wanted to regrettably report to the board that this is going to be my last aboard with you folks. I'm actually getting promoted to captain, so I'll be moving to a different division. Yeah. So that's why we brought Sergeant Aaron Ostachuk here. He is the best or one of the best guys that I have. He has geographical and situational awareness of this particular area, and he's going to serve you guys very well. So yeah, so from now on, he's going to be pretty much the lead. I'll provide you guys his contact information, his email addresses and stuff like that. And at this point, I'll yield back the rest of my time and take any questions from the board members and public attendees.
Thank you. Lieutenant Segusio, when does the captain take effect? Do we
Oh.
call you Captain Segusio or do we stick with Lieutenant?
You just can call me Goose like the bird. But so it takes effect on the 16th of February. So it's kind of expedited, and I'll be moving to the records division and then handling all of the day-to-day things in that office. Hopefully I can get back to a patrol division and maybe come back to District 1.
Thank you. Board questions? Member Mariano.
Thank you, and thank you for your service and congratulations.
Thanks.
My favorite topic is, I have really 2, the graffiti.
Yes.
You said you just had 1 reported, but, as I drive around the entire district, there's more. And I understand the concern that, if it's private property, there's nothing you can do. And so, as we talked about previous board, that, we still want to push that resolution to kind of go forward, so that the laws can change. So I just want to bring up on that. But the other part is, as I've been talking about the infrastructure. And infrastructure also includes, EMS. And so as we talked about the traffic, as I talked about here at Pensacola and Pi'ikoi and Kapiolani, and even around Kakako area. Recently I've seen an increase, particularly on the weekends now, where Pensacola and Pi'ikoi has gotten to the point where there's so much impediment or delays in traffic. And so my question to you is, have you folks, obviously you have emergency means to park the vehicles, but has that been any concern, as I see it, of a delay in your response of things we want to do? Because it's important for us to take a look at this as we look at potentially narrowing up Pensacola and also narrowing up Pi'ikoi.
So you know what, I'm gonna pass that question on to Sergeant Osachuk. He works during more of the days. Nighttime, the times of night when I work, we hardly see any kind of impediments in regards to the travels, but I'll let Aaron.
That's actually a great question. I can see where it's slowing down traffic to the public eye. The reason for that is the safety measures that they impose on both those roads with those multiple speed bumps. Just last year, me and my officers, we used to shoot laser right down the street in front of the school, and we would end up with 20 an hour pulling over cars. Since they installed those bumps, those speed bumps, and there's multiple of them throughout that stretch, we can't even get nobody speeding over that speed limit. So it is a good thing to have it. It does slow down traffic a little bit, but it's kind of like the risk versus reward. We'd rather have people go a little bit slower. Maybe the roads be a little bit more jammed up, but we don't have so much of an issue with people not moving over for us. So right now.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from the board? Member Davis.
This one working. Just to kind of bring it back to the graffiti thing, I think we've been in conversation about, how we can advocate and what we can do as a board to help minimize it. But I'm just curious from your point of view, what the best deterrent, for graffiti, just from what you've seen around this neighborhood has been so far in, how do we incentivize better behavior, but, what type of consequences are really actually most effective? So we're not, advocating for things that really are not going to give us the type of change that we're looking to see.
Okay. Once again, great question. I'm actually really glad you guys brought that up because this morning we got a complaint log to address that specific issue. Some of those black tarps you see along the fences on the side of some public and private businesses. So today we started paying a little bit more specific attention to it. We got a 2-week program where we're running that log, where we're checking every day, we're noting what is tagged and what is not. Unfortunately, getting the businesses to cooperate with us is a different question. It's up to them if they want to prosecute or not. What happens if we do catch somebody in the process of doing graffiti? We do our best to go ahead and try to contact that business owner. It depends if we can get in contact with them and or if they even want to come down and do anything. What will happen is if we can't get in contact, and we will initiate a case and our misdemeanor follow-up detail, we'll go ahead and further investigate and try to get a hold of that owner and stuff like that. We'll take pictures of people who are doing it and stuff. In the Kakalako area, it's a little bit more prevalent that it's down there because I think they feel more free because of the powwow art that's down there. I think they just can go ahead and start doing their own graffiti. But it is an issue that we just started addressing a little bit more than usual this morning because of the complaint came in. So I believe next time when we do have the neighborhood board meeting, I'll have a lot more answers for you on that. Probably a little bit more results.
Hi, I just had another question as well in relation to the graffiti, particularly in the Moana area. Currently, the Ross across from Moana over there recently closed down, and there is currently a lot more graffiti going up on the building. You mentioned that if you do catch someone, you would contact the business owner, but in the event that the business is closed down, how do you proceed to go along to prosecute the individuals you catch?
Right. So what we do in that situation is we will go ahead and initiate a criminal property damages case, which graffiti doesn't have its own classification. It falls under criminal property damage, depending on the value. If we can't get a hold of the owner of the business, we will go ahead and initiate the. It's just based off we don't know what the value is of that damage. Then we will forward that case to the prosecutors. And then when it's on the prosecutor's desk, if they can't get a hold of nobody of those empty buildings, it's their call what they want to do. So usually if they can't get a hold of a complainant, there's not much that they're going to do about it. Right. But the good thing about that is at least we got the suspect. The suspects always usually stick to the same kind of tagging, the same names and stuff like that. So we can associate them with other properties they've tagged with other names and try to, hey, we know who this guy is because he just did it on this building. Or in retrospect, we may have not known who did the previous building, but has the name.
Welcome, Sergeant Osachek.
Thank you.
And along the lines of property owners of these buildings that are getting the owners of the buildings, has there been more of a crackdown, a better on the street? And on a side note, some of those rooms also had advertisements for politicians. So on a curious note, I'm wondering if they felt so comfortable putting a sign, advertising a particular politician running, did they feel that it was okay to conduct business as usual in terms of having their illegal game room? So I'm just curious. Welcome aboard. We're going to miss you, Lieutenant Segusha, but congratulations. But we'd love to continue this rapport that we have with HPD, and thank you for all your services. Sorry, it's a mouthful.
Yeah, that's all right. To answer your question about the gambling and game rooms, I haven't seen a case yet since it just initiated the law about holding property owners responsible. I think that's going to have to get adjudicated in court for people to realize what the punishments will be and see if they cease and desist their behavior. However, I can tell you without getting into specifics, our Narcotics Vice Division is actively out there doing it. I just got a phone call last week because they're in this area and they had to give us a little bit of heads up with not what they're doing, but they're going to be in the area doing something. So we don't get just some strange 911 calls. From my knowledge, they took at least 2 game rooms down last week in this specific area. Yeah. So they're actively be doing stuff. So I don't know if they're going to be doing more because they have the more power behind their investigations to charge these people. I think that's also another further answer I'll be able to give you next month once these things develop a little bit more since it's brand new.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you, Sergeant Osterchuk. Any other questions from the board? One more from Member Davis.
Sorry. I know you mentioned the 2-week program with graffiti. Is that like a data collection just in terms of where you're seeing things pop up? And the other kind of question or curiosity in terms of data is just if you see any commonalities in terms of the type of people that are committing it. Again, that is going to influence what we advocate for in terms of a potential solution. So
Right.
just wondering if as you collect that, when you come back, you can share that data or whatever.
I can
data
tell you
you
right
have.
now, there is a running log that's collecting data of where these things are at. And if we catch anybody doing it, I just had my officer earlier today make checks and make that first entry into the log today. So he did find a lot of stuff, took a lot of pictures. So we will be, like I said, being more attentive to that these next couple of weeks.
So in regards to the graffiti and stuff like that, it's usually spray paint cans, right? We could advocate for possibly the stores to be like securing those cans in particular areas, like Walmart does. They have it behind glass. I walk into Lowe's, and I'm not casting any shade on them. Lowe's, Home Depot, and it's right on the shelf, yeah. Because a lot of these graffiti artists, they boost these cans. They boost it. What I mean is they steal it, yeah. They don't purchase it. Obviously, they don't spend the money for their craft art. They'll just rather steal it. So if we can kind of like advocate maybe to secure those cans, that would be actually fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honolulu Police Department, Sergeant Osterchuk, and Lieutenant Segusha. We will miss you. I think you've been our HPD representative since I got on the board. So we wish you the best and are looking forward to see the difference that you'll continue to make for our communities. Thank you.
Yes, have a great night.
Okay, the time is now 6:27. We are moving on to presentations. If we can have Mr. Ross Isokane, is he online or in person for an empty homes tax resolution update?
I am here, Chair Lee. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, aloha, Moana kaka'ako. Thank you so much for welcoming me back. I was here last advocating for Bill 46 from 2024, seeking to establish an empty homes tax on Oahu to help us mitigate our impossibly unaffordable housing crisis. We'd like to do this in many ways. We think the empty homes tax can help, number one, by increasing supply of affordable housing and homelessness solutions, getting funding for these. But also, we believe that empty homes tax could help by curbing demand from speculators and outside investors. Now, just wanted to give an update, so thank you for having me back, just for what Bill 46 is doing currently at the council. It was up for a final reading and vote in December, and the resolution that this board adopted in support was published on the measure's public-facing webpage for the council members to see. But during the December meeting, Chair Waters temporarily deferred the measure into 2025, pending a consultant's report by a firm called Ernst & Young. It's being prepared at the moment, and the hopes is it could actually help the council strengthen the bill. Now, I believe this is the third bill that Chair Waters has introduced to pass an empty homes tax, but this is the first time any measure has made it to the third reading. So, it's got a lot of momentum, but just needs a little more to push it over the line. In addition to Chair Waters, we know it has the support of Floor Leader Cordero, who co-introduced the bill, as well as Vice Chair Wire and Budget Chair Dos Santos Pham. But it's also garnered some notable opposition as of late. Just to share, while previous public testimony in support of Bill 46 has always garnered over 100 submissions, well outpacing counts in opposition, in advance of the third reading in December, there were some well-coordinated opposition groups, I'll say, many supporting interests in the real estate and development industries, and they impressively managed to rally over 300 submissions in opposition during the December meeting. So, we're still going, we're still fighting and advocating hard. We realize that the empty homes tax, it's a new concept, but we just believe that passing this concept into ordinance will empower a pro-housing council to push harder to make incremental improvements, through maybe future amendments well in advance of the expected July 2027 launch date. But again, first we need to convince our council members to vote yes. So public testimony, direct outreach to your council members, including your new council member, Scott Nishimoto, to let them know if you support the bill. It'll be key and crucial. So I'll stop there. Thank you again for having me, and I'll turn the floor back over to Chair Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Sakane. Questions from the board? Member Frenas?
Hi, Ross. Is there a projected date for when that report from the hired committee, since Councilman pushed back the date pending the report?
Yeah, great question. The Ernst & Young report, it was a 1-year study, and it started, I believe, back in August of 2024, around that time. They are expecting or hoping to release the preliminary findings in January. So, a couple days left for that. But I think the report won't be finalized probably toward the middle of the year.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Frenas. Any other questions from the board? Okay, Mr. Isakano, thank you for that update to our board.
Thank you.
Okay, 3.2, Keiki Street Festival at our Kaka'ako with either Summercaster or Gabriel Richter.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm going to go ahead and share screen. So my name is Summercaster. I am with Olamalumas ISC, and I'm here to represent our Kaka'ako and Kamehameha schools. The Keiki Street Festival, it's happened a couple times, 2 years in the past, but we are going to be having it again. I do want to highlight it's going to be March 29th. I know on the agenda it says the 22nd. We did change that due to Italiana Fest that's also happening in our Kaka'ako, which you might be aware of. So our event will be March 29th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. This is a Keiki friendly event. Lots of educational activities highlighting Hawaiian culture and fostering connections within the community. We'll have about 65 food and retail vendors, as well as live entertainment, primarily keiki entertainment groups, and activities for keiki and their family. Last year, we had about 12,000 attendees, so we anticipate similar attendance this year, possibly a bit more. It'll be on Awahi Street, Keawe Street, and then a bit of Coral Street as well. So Coral Commercial Center to where about Hank's Hot Dogs is. It's that little bit there. It is a free public event, so we welcome everybody to come out and take part. The most important thing I want to note for the board tonight is our planned street closures. Awahi Street will be closed from about 6:30 to 4:30 p.m. Keawe Street as well, 6:30 to 4:30 p.m. And then Coral Street, 6 to 5. Coral Street will be a bit earlier because we do anticipate having our main stage there. So we need to anticipate a bit more time for stage setup. All residential parking and building driveways will remain accessible. That's really important to us. So we want to make sure that it's feasible for people to get in and out of their lots. We will be promoting this on Instagram, Facebook, and we will have a website as well. It's not up quite yet, but it will be in the next month or so. So keep an eye out for that. And I encourage any questions at info@rkakaako.com. But if there's any questions now, happy to answer those for anyone on the board.
Thank you, Ms. Castor. Questions from the board? Member Chang.
I just know that you guys are having these two events like back to back, one Saturday from another. I'm just wanting to know if the people that live in that district, if they think that's a little too much on the road closures. That's my only concern.
Thank you, Member Chang. Any other board members? Okay, Ms. Castor, thank you for presenting this evening.
Thank you so much.
Or is that more directed at? Yeah. I mean, I can.
Okay, Member Davis, if you wanted to respond to Member.
I mean, it's a good question. I think especially that they were on the same day originally. 2 weekends in a row is kind of heavy, and I know Jeannie's not here, but that was where I think a big question would have come from, and making sure that businesses are accessible, but any type of event in large scale is going to decrease businesses, and for 2 weekends in a row, I can definitely see where there's some concern there. So, it's 2 months out. I don't want to encourage moving dates or unless you can, but I think it is something to maybe consider in terms of just one, attendance in families wanting to come to 2 events 2 weekends in a row. It might decrease attendance at both, or one or the other. But I do think that there is valid concern in terms of the impact that it'll have on local businesses that are going to be impacted by the street closures, and maybe business, what's the word for people that come to businesses? Customers, patrons, that's it. That do access them. So, yeah, I agree with that. And I'm kind of wondering, what kind of options there might be in terms of alleviating that, or if that's, a movable date at all. Because back-to-back weekends, I think could be a concern.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. I will say that we do our best to plan dates in advance. This was an unfortunate situation where there were 2 events back to back, which was not planned. We do our best to make sure that we're supporting community businesses. So for members of our Kaka'ako, we provide discounts. If they want to participate and pop up at our event, we welcome any businesses to do that. And we also pride ourselves on the fact that our events do bring a lot of patrons to our Kaka'ako to support businesses in the area. But I absolutely understand the traffic concerns. And I think in the future, if this is a concern, we can absolutely look at moving dates. Unfortunately, this one is a couple months out, so I don't think that's feasible at this time. But it is good feedback, and it's something that we can look at for the future.
Thank you, Ms. Castor. Board, any other questions? Member Mariano.
Yeah, and thanks for the presentation. Just following on with that, it's not so much of closing the streets, but it's the inconvenience as well as far as parking all over the area, because depending upon the number of patrons you're anticipating, it has a really big impact. And down the road, there's also the Ward Farmers Market that's every Saturday. And so that will be kind of a concern. And so from my standpoint is I know the coordination has probably taken place, but we need to ensure that we have a sufficient amount of emergency services that's standing by so that we be able to take care of all the patrons, because they'll be coming in from all over the island, I would suspect. And then there's been other considerations of looking at, maybe you're looking at next year or future years of pre-planning in ahead to kind of move it or shift this to the right. And so my next question would be, if it's raining that day, is there another rain date?
Good question. We are a rain or shine event. And in concerns to having safety measures in place, we do have a full plan in place for any kind of risk management. We also work with HPD as well as HFD on site to make sure that we have adequate safety measures and emergency personnel in place. We also hire private security in addition to make sure that our bases are covered. And as far as parking, currently we're partnering with Waterfront Plaza to offer validated parking at that structure. We are also looking at other parking options to increase, availability for people so that they don't have to rely on just waterfront or just salt parking at this time. But I absolutely hear your concerns, and those are things that we're working on consistently for our events to improve in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Castor. Member Davis.
Sorry, and this is a little bit of you educating me, but who approves the events? And I wish I knew this, but this is kind of a situation where I'd like to better understand, so that we can, be in conversation with them in terms of how many events we can handle within, a certain number of weeks. But can you just kind of help us understand who's approving which dates we can have events and not? No?
Yep.
Well-
So we work primarily with city and county. And when the 22nd was a conflicting date, we actually got this date suggested to us. So that's how we decided the 29th.
Yeah, normally when an event, Madam Chair, is going to take place in a community, they come and talk to the neighborhood board to at least present it to us so that we could take it back to our constituents to, voice some of these concerns. And that's what we've done, just like when we're built, another project is going on. We talk about road closures and all these questions that we have. I don't recall having this event come before the board. Now, we don't approve or disapprove, like she said, it's the city, but we are the eyes and ears for the mayor and the elected officials. And so we should at least have the courtesy to say, hey, we're trying to do this so we can prevent these type of concerns that we have, and then make it a success, a win-win for all.
Thank you, Member Mariano. Ms. Castro, would you like to address that comment?
Yeah, I just mentioned presenting to the neighborhood board is a part of the permitting process. And that's why I'm here tonight, to present to you all. So I can take your concerns back and plan for future events, plan for this event, but definitely take your concerns into consideration.
Member Davis.
This is more of just a commentary for the board, but maybe it's something, we want to bring up and talk to city and county on in terms of regulations around how many events in back-to-back weekends. That's something that we can definitely suggest that will limit or at least provide some guidance that's established around this type of thing, so it doesn't happen in the future and it doesn't come down to you presenting and having a date suggested and not really having any any say over that either, but just creating a little bit more awareness and planning, especially well ahead of time. But thank you.
Thank you, Member Davis. If no further questions from the board, we will move on. Ms. Castor, thank you for presenting this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, 3.3, Festa Italiana. Initially, we had Ms. Kira Diona, but we have Mr. Rick Schneider.
Aloha, I'm Rick Schneider from Events International. We are partners with Ciao Aloha, producing Festa Italiana. This is a big event happening again. It was extremely successful last time we did it, and it's obvious that the community really liked it, so we're very happy about that. We are expanding it somewhat. In the past, we closed Cook and Pohokaina. We're also closing Haleakala because it was being overrun, and we figured it'd be much better if we can control it and also spread the crowd out. And of course, it takes over all of Mother Waldron Park. I should mention that these two events that we're talking about in 2 different weeks are in 2 completely different footprints. So we're not really impeding the exact same residents or businesses. And in the case of our event, there are no businesses that are being impacted because they just don't exist in that area. And really, and the mayor is fully on board with this, because really what happens is Mother Waldron is sort of village square for that area of Kaka'ako, and this is a great utilization of that and really becomes something very central and exciting. Like the other event, we are also offering validated parking at Waterfront and coming up with other options to be able to spread that around and make accommodation for that. We also have an EMT on site. So we, because of the numbers of people that we had passed, because of all the people we had in the past, I think we had about 8,000 people. It was prudent that we make sure that there's, rather than rely on EMT offsite, that we have EMT on site. And of course, we have a very robust security detail and work closely with HPD. So we're excited about it. We think it's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll be better than it was. So.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. Member Freeness.
Thank you for your presentation. And I'm going to say, attributing to your success, you ran out of food the last time. Is there any way?
We will not run out of food this time.
Because it was so wonderful. So.
And there won't be as many long lines. We promise that. Okay, that it?
Any other questions from the board? Member Davis.
Sorry, can you just review what time the actual festival will be spanning?
The festival starts at 4:00 and ends at 9:30. And we want to clear the street, from 4 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. And of course, as before, the entertainment's going to be the same caliber. It's going to be like Ballet Hawaii and the opera, and all very Italian oriented. HIF is a recipient, a beneficiary of the event, and they will be showing snippets of famous Italian films throughout the day. And I think they'll have a feature performance that'll probably start. They'll do one full film, probably around 7:00.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Hey, Mr. Rick Schneider, thank you for presenting this evening. Time is now 6:47. We are moving on to board business. 4.1, approval of the November 26, 2024 meeting minutes. Does anyone have any comments, corrections, or edits?
A motion to move as distributed.
Okay, second. Okay, we'll just go over that. If anyone opposes. Okay, meeting minutes approved. Thank you, board. Moving on to 4.2, Action Committee Report with Member Emma Davis, who is our Action Committee Chair.
I'll start with just kind of a recap of the actual action committee we had, which was back in November. Now, No, we didn't have well, we had a special meeting in December, but a action committee in November. So I want to start there. And I think, something we've come, I've at least realized as chair of the action committee, and I think many of us have, is we have a lot of ideas and want to help support our representatives in promoting ideas and solving problems, but a lot of them cost money. And we are not in the money gathering or distributing business. And so I think something that we're really trying to do, and we talked about in our November Action Committee, is what are we able to do and take action on for free that benefits and promotes participation in the neighborhood board. So that November Action Committee, we really talked about something that's come up a lot before in how do we motivate more members of our neighborhood and community to participate in the neighborhood board, to vote in neighborhood board elections, and how do we serve as both a distributor of information and a place where people can share, events both in businesses and people who live in our community in terms of events that they want to make sure the neighborhood is aware of, like, the wonderful events of Festa Italiana and the Keiki Street Festival. So we're coming up with a couple ideas in terms of how we can distribute information, both by amplifying our social media and sending out newsletters within the neighborhood. But really we want to, increase public awareness about what the neighborhood is and does. And one of the big ones that we talked about as well is the farmers market, and potentially creating or partnering with the farmers market to create a kind of come to us, let us help educate the public about not just our neighborhood board, but if you are visiting the Kaka'ako Ala Moana Farmers Market and are from a different neighborhood, hey, every neighborhood on Oahu has a neighborhood board that you can communicate with and really get more people involved in local government. I think, I've mentioned it before, and I think we've talked about, how do we create more of a ground up method to policy rather than, what a lot of us wait for these days, which is top-down decisions to be made and then frustration around that. So we talked a lot. Those are some things that we're going to really move forward in 2025 to push for and use some of our action committee time to actually draft and prepare those things, as well as potentially reach out to the local college to get, college students that might be able to help us in some of the task and creation of those things, so that we can keep up with the amount of communication that it really takes to educate a community well. So that was the November meeting. I don't know if anybody who was in attendance in November wants to add anything on, or if that. Okay. And we had a special meeting in December, which I'm hoping that other people will add on to too, because it was a pretty robust conversation that the Parks, Department of Parks and Recreation participated in, along with Director Thielen of the Department of Parks and Recreation and some of her staff, in bringing back up the pickleball, sharing potential solutions at Ala Moana Beach Park, and long-term plans for pickleball courts and the development of pickleball as a sport within the community. As I mentioned before, all of these things cost money. I think especially for a lot of our long-term ideas and plans, that money doesn't necessarily exist right now, at least that I'm aware of. I'm hoping that maybe we can talk to some of the representatives or, get their input on where we might be able to find that, because activating our parks, especially with an activity that people are very interested in, is definitely a benefit to our community. But we did have a pretty robust conversation about a temporary solution, which, we do think is likely a shared space solution based on the number of people and the data that's been collected. I think we're in some agreement and are maybe ready to share a resolution. I know that one of the pickleball advocates, Roy, was working on a resolution. And I don't know if are we ready to, should I share what that might be, or should we wait for a resolution we'll wait for an actual resolution to be submitted, hopefully in the next month, potentially. But I know that we're likely to present a shared space resolution in terms of the Ala Moana Park tennis/pickleball courts that I think really hones in on the core data piece that we're looking at, which is how do we maximize the number of people who are able to be active in our parks? Not how many people are playing tennis or how many people are playing pickleball or how many courts are there for each, but how do we maximize the ability for our residents to stay active and be participants in recreation, which is what our parks are there to do. So I think, the conversations that we had did center around that. And I think we'll submit a resolution for the board to review and hopefully to vote on and pass up to the council and then the Department of Parks and Recreation to make a little movement on that and give our community just more chances to be involved. Anything anybody wants to add on?
And we also want to thank Director Thielen of the Department of Parks for coming to that special December meeting with 3 of our staff members. And their input and feedback really helped with the discussion because a lot of times we're still educating ourselves on how certain processes work. And so she was very instrumental in explaining things to our fellow community members that were there. Member Frinas?
Just a quick question, Treasurer Mariano, it's been a while for a treasury report. Can you shake that money tree and can we utilize some of that money for our action committee's endeavors?
Zero means zero. Sorry.
Member Chang?
I still want to have the topic about a potential public-private endeavor to potentially create some more of these potential pickleball courts. I think the people that were in that pickleball organization, they talked about the potential of having a public-private type of venture to increase the number of pickleball courts. And it might be that this organization can raise the funds to build a pickleball court. They just need the space to put it. So maybe the city or state can maybe come up with some space where it could be done, just as a suggestion. Thanks.
Member
Yeah,
Davis?
I can comment a little bit on that from what we talked about in our meeting. So space really is one of the bigger challenges. We both talked to City and County and the Department of Parks and Recreation, as well as HCDA, in terms of at least space that's available in our neighborhood. With parks, there's a lot of field space, but one of the things that was shared with us is the ratio of field space is actually underrepresented in and of itself. So a lot of the open fields that we see, they need even more field space, just like they need more pickleball courts. So we presented a decent number of ideas, including potentially creating a pickleball facility on top of a parking garage in a dual use idea. But again, costs a lot of money. And has to be approved. There is a parking garage planned by the HCDA for the Mackay side of Kaka'ako. But I think that's already in approval, and to change plans would send it back through approval, which I think people get hesitant to do because that takes years. And that's just the reality of it. So field space is a challenge. Finding a place to just put pickleball courts is a challenge. The waterfront park was another place that was suggested, but there are building permits because it's a landfill space. There are regulations around what you can build on that area as well. So we've gone through many, many iterations of really trying to figure out where we can build new courts. Many. And I think both cost and location, are coming up as one of the potential challenges. There's something else I wanted to say. Yeah, so the other thing is the public-private. So there's actually quite a few private pickleball courts, both at the convention center and then the Avalon Group is developing one at the Walmart. I think that's great that we have a lot of private, ones developing and people who have the money to access those and pay for court space. Great. But I think providing free public recreation is really what the goal of, both the neighborhood and the Department of Parks and Recreation is trying to do. And, that's a leveling field too for people to be able to get active and involved with it without having to have the monetary, bank account in order to access a sport. And I think that's what we're trying to avoid is that being a barrier to people being able to participate. So there are quite a few. but I don't know how willing they are in order to develop those and then offer them for free. But yeah, many in the works. They know it's a lucrative, growing opportunity.
Thank you, Member Davis. Any other board members would like to comment? Member Farinas.
Thank you, Emma, for sharing with that. Along those lines, I want to share that Pickles at Forte, for all of you pickleball enthusiasts here in person or online, as you say, the old Walmart, they're going to have a grand opening on Thursday, January 30th from 4 to 8 p.m. And according to their website, it's a free open play, refreshments and giveaways. And I know that's a start, but more importantly, us as board members, whenever developers come to us and they present their ideas in terms of what they plan to develop, I think we as a collective board should say, hey, you come to us and you ask for special exemptions. So how about giving us some as well in terms of beautifying our neighborhood, more open walking spaces for dogs, and perhaps more pickleball courts, in their footprint. Just saying.
Any other comments from any other board members? Okay, thank you, members Davis and Farinas. Moving on. So the discussion of continuation of action committee meetings for 2025. So for 2024, we had voted to have them up until the very last one, which was December. Again, these meetings are of value, but I do encourage members to attend. Because sometimes the attendance will be kind of sparse. Sometimes it'll just be me and Member Davis, or Member Davis and Member Morano and one other constituent. Sometimes it'll be big. So just wanted to bring up that the discussions that we've had in these meetings and the guests that we've had to talk more in depth about what we discuss here has been very valuable. So Mr. Spencer Johnson, do we need a motion to add these meetings to our 2025 calendar?
No, unless you made a motion to stop the meetings.
Okay.
Madam Chair, this neighborhood board had made the action committee as a standing committee. So as such, there's really no need unless we want to make a motion to dissolve the committee. But I think because of the interests, starting it back up, it can continue so that the next board can make that decision to continue on, and which I hope that they would, because it is a viable, important timeframe. As you can see, just our meetings tonight, the action committee can take a little more time, discuss more in detail, and then the committee makes recommendation to the board.
Thank you, Member Mariano. Okay, and just to remind everyone that these action committee meetings are every second Thursday of the month. And I do want to commend Member Davis for leading it as the action committee chair. Okay, moving on to attendance at other meetings. Second Vice Chair Jeannie Rice could not be here today, but I wanted to make mention of her since she has reached out to HCDA Director Craig Nakamoto to further discuss the pickleball matter. I know Member Davis had talked about it a little bit when she was giving an update, but hopefully we can get a more in-depth update from Member Davis Member Rice when she gets back. Okay, board recess dates for 2025. I checked our calendar. Thanksgiving week, we usually have it because our meetings fall on a Tuesday and Thanksgiving is on Thursday. So do we need a motion for the board recess dates?
Yes, but if you want to just focus on this term, which ends in June, in July, because it could be a new board, so then they would get the chance to vote in July. So just from now until June, if you guys want to take any recesses, now would be a good time to vote on it.
Okay, thank you,
But
Mr. Spencer Johnston. So we're good. Thank you, board. Moving on to 4.6, discussion on condo and property insurance. This was brought up by Member Mariano, and I will turn this over to him.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And before I begin, just want to apologize for my joke about the treasury. I did not receive a report from the neighborhood commission to show what our balance is, so I have nothing to report.
I'll follow up on that, Member Mariano, to see what the NCO has budgeted for each of the boards.
That's great. Thank you. So the discussion tonight is on condo property insurance. This is something that's not only near and dear to me, but also I've received lots of concerns from many of the neighbors and the constituents in my district. And I'm sure others as well might have heard this. You know, the condo insurance, there's some things we can't control and other things that we can. And majority of this with this insurance they're talking about is this condo property insurance that concerns Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac for hurricane. All right. So single dwelling homes, you know, there are some challenges that they have to have. I'm not going to discuss that because here in the Ala Moana Kaka'ako area, we have lots of condos. And so we, at this board, we talk about the condos and the building of the condos and the standards that it must be, and then also the permits and so on and so forth. And so the condos that's here, particularly the exception to policy for the TOD, you know, goes beyond the 150 or 250 up to 400 feet. Now, so all these condos that's in here should be able to withstand as much as possible hurricane category built to withstand Safran or Samson category 1 to 5. Just in summary, without going into much detail, category 1 would be wind speed from 74 to 95 miles per hour. And then category 5 is anything greater than 155 with gusts of wind going greater than 190. And so we've had some experience, you know, in the condo that I live in, you know, we would have some shaking and stuff, but nothing, you know, catastrophic. As long as the condo maintenance and the condo board maintains the exterior to the standpoint of covering it. The reason I bring that up is the exterior portion is normally covered by the association. But interior, every owner or renter have property insurance, and that's required. And so this increase that I'm talking about has concern, particularly for kupunas and families on fixed incomes or one income families, and that kind of is concern. So I think that one of the things we need to do and want to bring this topic up is so that we can bring it to the city council and to the mayor for consideration to see what can be done to alleviate some of these additional costs that's uncontrolled by the residents. And then maybe the mayor can bring it up, because it's not just here, but across the state of Hawaii, you know, to the governor or in the legislature to make some type of decision. Because we're pricing ourselves out of paradise, but also here where it's close to home is the Ala Moana Kaka'ako area. And I'll just kind of say from the standpoint of, you know, what some suggestions can be done. And that would be, you know, this board maybe sometime in the future, and that's why I want to open up for discussion, to the CEO maybe putting a resolution forward so that it can bring attention to the fact that these increase in property taxes but in this case, the property insurance, condo and property insurance is astronomical. For example, with this mandate by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, you know, insurance for hurricanes has gone up to $1 million plus. And if you have a condo that have less than 700 owners, you know, that cost becomes very extreme and very price people out. In addition to that, like on fixed income, a lot of the seniors or kupunas, you know, they bought these condos as a retirement place because they don't want to do, like I bought a condo because I tired of doing yard work. So, living in a condo, that's being done by the property management and so on and so forth. So I would just like to bring this attention to the fact and maybe have an open dialogue to see if other board members have the same from their constituents or even members of the audience that, have the same concerns. Just recently, there was an increase in Social Security, right? There was an increase in other benefits. But before the first paycheck got delivered into our pocketbooks, this insurance came up, and then now it's gone pretty high. And then with the concerns, homeowners' maintenance fees went up as well. And so some of these kupunas and also single families, as I mentioned earlier, are that's a concern because now they may not be afford to live in their retirement place, and they may be out in the street or something else because some may have sold their single dwelling home to purchase this condo. And now, as we know, the shortages in housing, that has a big impact on where they're going to go. And so I just bring that up as a point of open discussion and just want to see if anyone else is hearing or seeing the same thing.
Thank you, Member Mariano. Board members? Member Vanderbrink?
Yeah, I just want to share it too that a lot of times this is treated as an owner problem of owners of condos, but as a renter, this type of thing also gets passed down to me. If my owner sees an increase in their insurance rates, they're going to increase my rent as a response because I rent from them. So, and not to disparage our elected officials, but oftentimes it's also framed in that way as well as it's a problem that the owners have to deal with, that they have to work with them. And renters are just left out of the conversation, even though we also see the increases in rent as a result of these insurance rate increases. So I just want to add that onto the conversation as well.
Thank you, Member Vanderbrink. Any other board members? Member Davis.
It's more of a question because I'm still educating myself about so many different elements of this, but what's driving these insurance increases? Like my natural instinct is thinking that, building costs are going up. So if something is damaged, that's the only thing I can fathom would suddenly make insurance spike up. But I'm curious to learn, like, what really is driving insurance companies to suddenly say, actually, it's going to cost us more if something is damaged than it did before.
Thank you. Member Chang?
I'm no expert. I've done a little bit of research on it. My understanding is over the past couple of years, there's been some significant major catastrophic weather events that have caused interest rates to go up. So that's one. A good example is Lahaina, and now we've got LA, which is apparently still burning. That would probably going to affect our insurance rates again. So I think if we want to get more information about this, in addition to the fact that I sit on a condo board, and we saw our condo insurance, the master insurance, go up 300% this year, and I was told we were lucky. Other places have gone up 1,000%. So I think we really want to get educated. Maybe we get somebody from insurance. One of the people that I've called in the past to get good information is Sue Savio. Maybe we can ask somebody from the an insurance company to come and just make a presentation or to talk to us about condo insurance, not only for the condo master plan, but also for individual unit owners or renters insurance, and maybe they can talk to us about what's causing it to go up, and perhaps what maybe condos or homeowners can do to maybe help bring it down a little bit. And maybe they can shed some light on what our legislative elected officials are doing to maybe help alleviate it, whether it be a state plan, something like that. But that might be a good place to start.
Thank you, Member Chang. Member Farinas?
Thank you. And is the governor's representative here this evening? On our agenda, we have Ashton Stallings. Are you present by any chance? I was curious, I don't know if he's online, he or she's online. Because Governor Green just added past House Speaker Psyche onto his administration in terms of, the special condo insurance. So I would have loved to get some kind of take on that, but okay. Last call for Governor Green's representative. Okay, maybe.
Thank you, Member Farinas. And our hopes in putting this on the agenda was, as Member Mariano had mentioned, get further discussion on it. Hopefully we'll get an expert and again, input from our local legislators regarding this matter. So
Well,
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, if I could, again, I want to hear from, some of the members in the audience, but mainly for this portion here, there's limited things that we can do here as a board. But just bringing and raising this concern is something that, again, as being the eyes and ears for the mayor of what's happening in our community, I'm sure other neighborhood boards are experiencing the same thing. So, it starts by voicing the concern, but raising it up to the mayor, and then the mayor brings it up through, city council to the mayor, then it goes to the state, and then pushing it up to the governor and also to our congressional members, because it's not just here, but I think it's nationwide, because Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae is a national governing body. So the concern that I voice here, the difference between Hawaii, because we're the 50th state, we're in the middle of the Pacific. And what's different about us is that our counties are not together landlocked like you have on the mainland or even in Alaska. We're separated by islands. And so responses and all that, have some big impact as we try to solve some of the issues. But the concern about hurricanes as a result, or the property insurance going up, is something that needs to be addressed. We've done this during COVID, it's declared an emergency. And maybe it's something that, the state has, I believe, $1 billion in some funds that's set aside, and maybe taking something like that as an emergency to relieve the pressure for residents of Hawaii to at least address it, not take everything, because we need some for a rainy day for the future unknown events, but something that will kind of relieve the pressure so that we all can kind of benefit and work together and find us a solution, a win-win solution for the entire state.
thank you. Member Mariano, do we have the governor's representative? The mayor's representative could not be here this evening. Okay. Member Davis.
Sorry, and again, from anyone who has education on it, again, I need to educate myself more, obviously. But I think, I'm curious about what we can do and how we can alleviate it. But again, I'm curious about what's the driving cost. What's the economic reasoning behind insurance companies all of a sudden jumping their cost by 300 to 1,000% increase? Yeah. And so I know that I see some people pointing in the back, and I, again, would like to hear it. But I'm really wondering what's incentivizing that. Like, what's the cause? Because we can't really create a good solution if we don't actually address the cause of it.
Hi, Chair Kathleen, William New, Governor's representative here. So I was on the whole time, but I wasn't able to get my laptop up and running. But can you guys hear me okay?
Yes. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. New.
But yeah, I overheard the conversation just now, but I can chime in a little bit. My day job, or William New, Governor's representative, my day job is communications officer for the Department of Commerce Consumer Affairs, which we oversee the insurance division and the regulatory policies for the state of Hawaii. A general update on the status is that the governor has formed a legislative and executive task force on insurance. A white paper was just completed and submitted to the legislature earlier this month, and that includes a range of policy issues and ideas and concepts for this session to address this issue. That white paper can serve as a foundation for many of the initiatives that we're looking to develop and utilize going forward. To answer your question, board member, sorry, I can't see, about the economic factors behind the rising cost is, in short, that this is a global market. Insurance companies have seen catastrophic damages over the last several years, throughout the world. And this is a global market that all insurance companies have to buy into. Or the rates actually increase. It's not the insurance on the front side. It's called the reinsurance market. So insurance companies actually have to buy insurance on themselves. And that underlying rate of reinsurance has skyrocketed. And that gets passed down through all policyholders across the world. One of the things that we have seen, fortunately, is that the rates are starting to stabilize, ticking down a very little bit. It spiked significantly over the last year or two, and now it's slowly ticking down and stabilizing shortly. But we don't know, as you guys have spoken to, there is continued catastrophes across this country, across the world, with LA going and other possibilities across throughout the rest of the year. So, joining with that, that is where we are now. The legislative and executive branch task force has created a white paper that has been submitted. I have it in front of me, but I'm not sure if it's on the website yet. But if it is made available, I can send it over to you guys for review. It is looks to be about 12-page document with a good summary and some ideas of what to look at and how they're going to address it this coming session and going forward. But I hope that answers some of the quick questions on this issue, and happy to take any other questions or defer till later period. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. New. Member Mariano?
Yeah, Madam Chair, in lieu of time, because again, this is a really big topic and we have much on the agenda. Again, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to raise this issue. But I hope that the gentleman that's doing this study or even this white paper without seeing it, again, the concern that we have here locally is the impact on the citizens for the state of Hawaii, the kapunas, family members on fixed income and one income families, of if they're going to get priced out because of this additional cost. If when they're going forward with this study that they're doing, to factor that into consideration so that we'll be able to take care of local families. It's an international thing. I get that. But we also have to look at, we can't just say, well, it's international, nothing we can do about it. Yes, we can. But it starts here for us to raise it up and see what can be done at the city council, at the state and Senate legislature, the mayor, the governor, and also our congressional members, so that we can take care of our families here in Hawaii. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Member Mariano, for bringing up the issue. Moving on now, 722 to sub-district reports. I placed sub-district 1 on here, and my fellow board member and neighbor, Member Vanderbrink, and I live in the same sub-district. So he brought up the same matter that I had wanted to, which was the graffiti over at Ross. I know that establishment closed in the beginning of the month. And I think a week after that, the windows were already populated with graffiti. So I appreciate the board members bringing that up to HPD to see like the initiatives that they're doing. I know the last time this happened in our sub-district, it was when the CBS flagship store closed. And at that time, former council member Say had been very instrumental in figuring out who the private owner was and then having them clean up the area. So hopefully we can get assistance either from our local legislators or anyone that has more knowledge on what we as a neighborhood can do. Because this is not just one part. It's always whenever a business shuts down. And in our neighborhood, there are a lot of them. Whenever a business shuts down, and Mr. Member Mariano had been speaking about this for years, you know, like the graffiti just kind of comes. So we would just want to have, just wanted to bring that up. So again, Member Van Brink, thank you for bringing that up earlier. Any other reports from other sub-districts? Member Chang.
Thanks to Councilmember Say, the dead tree issue has been resolved after 3 years. It fell. I complained about it falling. And believe it or not, within a week, they came to pick up the dead tree, but it had to fall first. And then they came to pick it up. So thank you. At least it's done.
Thank you, Member Chang. Any other sub-district reports from the members? Okay, moving on. Residents and community concerns. Do we have anyone in the audience? Okay, anyone online? Okay. Moving on to, it's now 7:24 p.m. Agency reports. Hawaii Community Development Authority, HCDA. Okay. HART, Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation.
Hi, good evening, Neighborhood Board, Chairman Lee. This is Mary Bell. I am with the Public Information Department over at HART. Can you guys hear me well?
Yes.
All right, perfect. We also have Patrick Watson here from Honua Consulting. He represents Frank V. Coluccio Construction, so he can provide more updates on just day-to-day construction impacts over in the Kaka'ako area. But big picture stuff, just wanted to update the board regarding utility relocation updates. That's still ongoing. And that's, you know, work along Limits Highway, Ala Moana Boulevard, along Halekaʻōlila Street. That's expected to keep going until the second quarter of 2025. I'll let Patrick talk about intermittent lane closures and impacts, but as far as future construction is concerned, once utility relocation is completed along Nimitz Highway, all through Halekaʻōlila, the next contractor is coming on board. They're Tudor Perini Corporation, and they're expected to start work on the city center guideway and stations in the summer of 2025. And they're gonna start first in the Iwilei area and then progress downtown. So we'll be sure to, you know, introduce their PI person here with the board too, to keep everybody updated. Lastly, just wanted to invite the members of the public here. If you want to learn more about the most current happenings in terms of utility relocation from Kaka'ako, all the way to Dillingham, Meadow Street area. We will be having a business and community meeting this Thursday, and I can share the link to join via Zoom on that. But Patrick, I wanted to toss it over to you. Maybe you could go over some impacts and just give the board an update.
All right, aloha, Chair Lee and members of the board, members of the Ala Moana Kaka'ako community. Patrick Watson with Honua Consulting, and on behalf of Frank V. Coluccio Construction, just some brief updates. As Maribel indicated, we have a business and community meeting coming up this Thursday. I actually put the information in the chat as well. And just as a reminder, the best way to keep track of all of our updates is to join our weekly e-blast. So every week I publish something on Friday to give you an update regarding some of the impacts in the area. And currently on Halekaʻōlila Street, it's pretty standard operating procedure at the moment, Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. The work will continue along that corridor. However, we're announcing the extension of the work going beyond Cook Street. So in the Ojai Street area, so just about a block and a half past Cook Street headed east, Colusho will be continuing some of their CCR3 utility relocation work. And we'll be able to speak more in depth about that at our community meeting. But other than that, there's a little bit outside of your folks' district, but on Nimitz Highway, Friday night, there's going to be a full closure of westbound Nimitz between Bethel and Mauna Kea Street. So between 9:30 and 12 midnight, they'll be removing one of the old traffic signal mast arms over the westbound lanes. So that's why they're doing the westbound closure. But beyond that, there is some work taking place at Alakea Street and Nimitz. But again, it's a little bit outside of your folks' district, but just to be aware of it, there's going to be a lot of work Friday night in those areas. But that basically concludes my update for now. And again, I highly encourage you folks to attend our business and community meeting, or at least sign up for our e-blast, which I've provided the links to in the chat. Mahalo.
Thank you, Mr. Watson and Ms. Pabalan. Questions from the board member Freinius?
Hi, Patrick and Maribel. Just a quick question. You know, with the recent lawsuit from Hitachi because of the delays and mismanagement of the contracts, has that impeded our estimated complete time and the segments of the rail? Or is everything going smooth as sailing could be?
I can't answer on behalf of the entire project, just for the Colusho CCR3 work, but it has not affected our work. And the only reason for our extensions is that HARD has asked Colusho to extend some of the scope of the CCR3 project. But I don't know if Maribel could possibly answer you a little bit more in detail about that.
You know, we do have that active lawsuit, you're right. As far as our work with other contractors go, no, it has not affected schedule. And then in terms of our work with our partners at Hitachi Rail Honolulu, you know, we do let the lawyers take care of that particular lawsuit. People on the ground level, you know, working on operations and stuff. We're working as if there is no lawsuit, and we're continuing to work together in mutual agreement to get segment 2 up on board.
Thank you, Ms. Pabalan. Member Mariano.
Yeah, just as we move forward with the Skyline, is that what it's called now? We'll hopefully change the name to some Hawaiian name. But anyway, it's coming in from the airport. And can you educate me again, the route it's going to go and where it's going to end? Because I know it's coming down Dillingham. And then it's coming to where before it ends?
Well, since it's kind of passing through a majority of where we're working currently, I might be able to help answer that. So at Dillingham, it continues toward King Street and then jogs onto Ka'ahi Street. So you know where that, like just past Costco before you get to King Street, there's that big mural, like why doesn't my boyfriend surf, you know, the thing on the wall. So it goes down Ka'ahi by the IHS Women's Shelter. And that's where our project began for CCR3. Then it continues to the dead end of Ka'ahi Street currently, but it passes through State Dag's property over to Iwile Road. And then it continues along the off-ramp from Nimitz Highway to Iwile Road. And it goes right past, you know, the pump station, the old ABA pump station right there at River Street. It goes right down the heart of Nimitz along the median. There'll be a Chinatown station right there at Kekalike Street, all the way down to where Nimitz and Ala Moana Boulevard jog kind of Mauka toward Halekuila. So at that point, it's going to go on to Halekuila past the Kuhio Federal Court building. And then where we're currently working, it ends over just beyond Cook Street to Ojai Street. And so that's basically the path of the alignment.
Yeah, I'm not trying to ask for any change order or anything, but as you look at where it's originating and coming in, you know, one of the concerns, if you look at some of these stops, there's no place for individuals to park their vehicles. So it makes it kind of hard and difficult to use the rail and also with the construction. If I understand, it's coming down Queen Street, it's already a narrow corridor. So I'm just kind of curious of how that's going to go. And maybe we can talk about that more later, but the concern that I would have is just obviously I live here in Ala Moana Kaka'ako, but I do go downtown quite a bit and also off of Nimitz. And that kind of gives a concern as far as parking, kiss and ride, or whatever you may call it. And also the artery for the bus, which was originally used as a filler to have commuters to go back and forth using the rail and also the bus to get to where they need to go.
I appreciate your comments and concerns, and I believe at a previous Kaka'ako neighborhood board meeting, we did address that to some degree about the parking element and how the rail is essentially designed to eliminate vehicles to some extent, So, but I totally understand too. I understand that part of it. I was working with Hawaiian dredging during the Waipahu station phase, and that question came up pretty regularly. So Maribel can take your information and your concerns and then possibly provide you with more answers at the next neighborhood board meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Watson and Mr. Mariano, for your questions. There isn't anything else. We're moving on. Thank you for being here this evening. Honolulu Board of Water Supply. Okay. The time is now 7:34. We're moving to elected official reports. I'd like to test something out tonight by attending to the legislators who are here in person. Let's see if that works out. We can probably do this, but I do want to run this by the board to see if it's okay, because it does take the listing out of order. So let's try it out for this meeting. So I understand that the first person who showed up was Councilmember Scott Nishimoto.
Thank you. Good evening, board and community members. I am Scott Nishimoto, your new councilman for about a month, a little less than a month. So we're getting settled in. To begin with, I wanted to introduce you to my staff so you can put a name with a face when you guys call our office. First off, you guys know Taylor Date. She's come to this board meeting a lot. She's continuing on with in my staff. Keith Williams, he was my CIP person in the State House. I've taken him to the council with me. Kylie Tokujo, she worked in my office 2 sessions ago as session staff. And then finally, Sophia Anderson, we hired her yesterday. So this is her second day at work. Happy to start at the council. We are having our first full council meeting tomorrow. My first full council meeting, I guess. We got a long agenda, but I will be serving as the vice chair of budget, which is what I've worked on pretty much 22 years in the State House. And then I'll have the Legal Affairs Committee, which mostly does the settlements for the city. So excited to get started. Happy to answer questions. Also, I think we're going to continue on with our e-blast that we send every other week. My staff has a QR code if you guys want to sign up. So they can, I guess we'll pass it out and we'll also put it in the chat. Okay. But if you have questions, you know what, let me address your question about the insurance thing. So in 1945, Congress gave the states basically the ability to regulate insurance. So it's by and large a state issue. And I'm sure my colleagues in the legislature are going to be taking it up. We looked at it last year, weren't able to come to agreement. It went up until the very last day, but I'm sure that it's something that they're going to take up because everyone realizes what a big issue this is, especially people in our neighborhood, right? I live in a condo too, so it's a big issue for me, but it largely is a state issue. We'll help how we can on the council, but insurance is a state issue.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yep.
From the city's standpoint, if you can help lead this effort of the concern that we have, and I'm sure the other neighborhood boards will have the same thing, to kind of push the legislature from the city, from the mayor,
Yeah,
to ensure that, it stays on the agenda,
yeah.
and not just something to look at, talk about, and nothing happens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for my colleagues in the state legislature, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be top of mind for them. And I'd be very shocked if nothing happens this year, because everyone involved realizes how important this issue is. But I'm not speaking for them.
Thank you, Council. Any other members have any questions? It's going to take a while for me to say Council Member Nishimoto because
Just call
you've
me
been.
Scott.
Rep
They call
Nishimoto.
me Rep, and I just tell them to call me Scott. So,
Thank you for being here in person this evening. I appreciate it.
yep, thank you.
Okay, next we have, again, we're going by the order of the, our wonderful legislators, and who showed up in person. It was Representative Ikaika Olds.
Good evening, board. Sorry, this is my first time, so I'm very nervous. My name is Ikaika Olds. I represent House District 23, formerly Scott Nishimoto's, now Councilman Nishimoto's district. As the councilman has stated, we have talked actually just yesterday about the condo insurance, and I think things are going to get a little bit more spicy considering what just happened today with the freeze on funding. Stay tuned. So that's, I think, the most I can speak onto it. I guess I'll just share some legislation that is going to be on the docket that might be interesting for you folks here in the Kaka'ako Ala Moana area. So I have some 5 spicy bills. It relates to public safety, homelessness. HB 536 is my Clean Fresh Waterways bill. HB 538 is a Safe Entranceways bill. HB 1485 is related to massage parlors. HB 1487 is related to criminal trespass and criminal property damage. And HB 1486, which is related to safe bus stops. I'm not sure if this is what you guys want to hear. I was hoping they would go first so I can know what to say. But I will take any questions. I do want to say that I emailed Spencer my newsletter, and hopefully he can pass it on to the board to share to the community. So I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Representative. Questions from the board. Member Vanderbrink.
Can you tell us what subcommittees you're serving on so we know what areas you're focusing on in the legislature?
Okay. So I'm the vice chair of the Human Services and Homelessness Committee, and I also sit on education, higher education, and health.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Okay, Representative Olds, thank you for being here this evening. Okay, next we have Representative Kim Kokoyomoto.
Good evening. You didn't get a calendar? Okay, sorry. Good evening. I'm Kim Koko Iwamoto, representative for District 25. That's the Ala Moana, Kaka'ako, and downtown Honolulu district areas. So I want to frame my presentation in terms of some of your resolutions and some of the issues that you've led the discussion on. First of all, you're one of the first to pass a resolution for good government reforms. And I have introduced 6 bills to address some of those issues, such as removing the exemption of the Sunshine Law. Currently, the legislature is exempt. And then also removing the exception from the state ethics laws relating to employees, because the legislature has exempted itself from the definition of a state employee. There's also some others on public lands, giving, well, giving the people, the public more, allowing them to do more transparency over how the governor extends leases or enters into new leases or awards renewals to people who are interested in state lands. And there's some others. And then, okay, so that's one of the resolutions you guys passed. I also did submit proposed rule changes and they were not accepted. But we will continue on that. We were told that we could continue to introduce more resolutions. So hopefully we'll create a more transparent, at least set of house rules. Under my read on the current house rules is we kind of had a net loss in terms of transparency and accountability, unfortunately. And then regarding Kauhale, and this is on a personal note, I was so inspired by your resolution on Kauhale that I donated my apartment building to RISE, which is a residential youth services and enrichment, and they serve homeless youth. So just knowing that for RISE to operate this small apartment building in a community that actually wants to serve our unsheltered population, I really appreciated that and it inspired me. Also, that was tied into my good government thing, because I want to vote on bills that provide state-funded subsidies to keep people housed so that they don't end up homeless. And in order for me to do so, and if we pass this ethics reform bill, so when I was a landlord, I would rent to people with Section 8 subsidies. And so I would have benefited. And so I want to remove that conflict so that I can participate without having any personal financial conflicts of interest. Let's see, insurance. So we just looked up, there's around 170 something bills on insurance, and there's around 50 something bills on condos. They may overlap, but just wanting to point out that both condo issues and insurance issues are well represented in this legislative session, as Councilmember Nishimoto suggested. I introduced one of the bills. I have a couple of bills addressing housing and security caused by the insurance crisis. So one of them directs the next insurance commissioner to create standards for 3 different models of insurance for condominium buildings. One would be a self-insurance model. Second would be what's called a mutual insurance model, or it's kind of like a hui of buildings self-insuring each other. And then the final one would be for new developments. It would be perfect for developers who are the first purchasers of insurance for the building. This would create a kind of a life insurance model for a building, meaning the insurance company and the developer would work on an insurance policy that would be locked in place for maybe 60 years. And it takes into account the rating of the windows, the rating of the plumbing, all the pipes, how long are they rated for? It would create a schedule for maintenance. It would create thresholds and standards for board members get understanding their responsibilities. So all of these things that insurance companies have seen that have driven the cost of claims up, they can nip it in the bud and commit to a longer term. So anyway, that would be called a life insurance for buildings. So anyway, just thinking outside the box and just putting it in front of the next insurance commissioner to work out those details with experts from the insurance industry. To answer the question, I think that people had, and I think it was answered by the gentleman whose face I couldn't see on their screen, that the reason why the costs go up, and I experienced that as well as a landlord, my insurance did go up last year by 80%. And I also rent in the dish. I rent a studio here, and My rent went up because my landlord, the insurance went up. So then he passed it on to me. So I moved to another building with less amenities, so it's cheaper. But to go back to why insurance rates were skyrocketing, it is because of this thing called reinsurance. Basically, when we buy insurance from most insurance brokers, they're just kind of like the middle person. They basically go out there and say, hey, reinsurers, who's going to cover this? I'm going to sell this policy. Who wants it? And how much you're going to charge me or how much you're going to charge for it? So really the person you're purchasing it from is kind of like the middle person who gets commission. It's the reinsurance, and the reinsurance is covering stuff from, not just Hawaii, but not just the US, but worldwide. And I don't want to use that as an excuse for why it goes up, because it's kind of like the reverse of hearing gamblers. I don't know if I have a brother who's a gambler, and you only hear about his huge wins, right? The gamblers never talk about their losses. Insurance, these reinsurers are just the opposite. You only hear about their losses. They don't tell you about their huge, huge wins that they've been scooping money for so long, right? Let me give you an example. So this came from Governor Green, who I guess went to the DCCA for some data. In the last 20-year period, Hawaii property owners purchased, paid out in premiums, purchased insurance to the tune of $38 billion. So they paid out $38 billion to buy insurance policies for their property in Hawaii. According to Governor Green, there was $14 billion paid out in claims. So, right, we have 38, I wish I had one of those whiteboards. 38 billion minus 14 billion in claims leaves us with 24 billion in profits. Okay, and that doesn't include the 10% a year. Normally, when you are well invested, you're getting a return of 10% a year. So 20 years, that would have been 24 plus 24 plus 24. So it should have been like, it's quite a bit of money. So this is what made me look into the self-insurance model, because when private companies have huge premiums and huge deductibles, they often look at self-insurance. And then they, instead of paying out the premium, they invest it into things and they keep it kind of funded. And then they also, they have an incentive now to do a lot of preventative maintenance, things that'll lessen their risk because they pay for it. Sorry, am I going into the weeds on this, or is that helpful? Okay. Yeah, so that's what I think we need to remember when we hear about, oh, these reinsurers have all these losses because of fires here, but they don't tell us about all the monies they collected for so many years. So we should be suspicious. I think it's healthy to be suspicious, especially when Now, another thing I recently learned that the governor, there's actually the state of Hawaii, for some reason, has a $200 million policy on property. It's $200 million. That's not much. But their premiums went up to 50 million. So they're like, well, why are we paying premiums for $200 million coverage? And so they're thinking about, from what I heard, like letting that policy go, because they just basically should self-insure. Yes, so that's kind of the dilemma and also the opportunity, because if we created some kind of local self-insurance model, we would be sitting on huge assets, right? If we started keeping all of those assets, the premiums here in Hawaii, and that money was cycling through our local economy, that could be an incredible opportunity. Another thing I thought of for a Kapuna who are retired, am I going to, wait, sorry.
You're on. It's education.
Okay, sorry, I'll let you guys ask questions, but I have more I can talk about, but go ahead, ask questions or let me sit down.
Thank you, Representative Iwamoto. Member Mariano, and then Member Van Brink, then Member Farinas.
Congratulations again on your elected position. So, as we sit here at the neighborhood board, we hear time and time again And I'm hoping that as your new position, that you help to assist when laws are being passed. Not just pass the laws, but working with the counties to ensure enforcement. So for example, we've heard time and time again, when laws are passed and it trickles down, there should be some time frame on when it should be enforced. But at the same time, need to ensure that there's funding that goes along with that enforcement, because we as taxpayers, have to pick up the tab, but it should come from the state. So, so however that's done, to pay considerable attention to support really in priority will be first responders, law enforcement, fire, and EMS. And we've heard it time and time again that HPD here, I'm sure Maui Police or all the others, they want to do what's right, but yet they can't do it if there's no funding or any mechanism to help sustain their means.
Yes.
Thank you, Member Mariano. Member Van der Brink.
My questions, I kind of just have two questions, just to kind of keep it short. The first one, you did mention you have experience with Section 8 housing, and currently the Trump administration tried to freeze all funds, which includes funding for Section 8 housing. So I just wanted to ask if there's anything being done on the state level or with your expertise in it that Section 8. And second, in terms of your position, are there any committees that you're on or chairing that you can tell us so we can know what you're experiencing in?
Thank you. Okay, well, so as I answer that question, I just want to introduce one of my session hire staff is Kobe Samishima. She's helping me with my committee assignments. So I am on the Consumer Protection and Commerce, which is one of the committees addressing condo insurance. And the chair is Scott Machiyoshi, and he is very serious about this issue. And that's why I echo Scott Nishimoto's, Councilmember Nishimoto's faith that things will be done this session for sure. So that's Consumer Protection Commerce. I'm also on Water and Land. And then I am Vice Chair of Public Safety. Ooh, one more thing I want to share since you guys brought up pickleball and HCDA. I did submit a bill. It's a CIP bill, so it's and we did put in for 2 pickleball courts and, more importantly, lighting to go into Mother Waldron Park, because we met with HCDA and we found out that they had half of Mother Waldron Park.
We figured this out too.
Yes, and so they did agree to do this, if we get the CIP. But I just want to be realistic. CIP takes a while for it to actually, get approved and then come down the pike. And given the huge human safety net resources issue happening to us federally, Section 8 in Hawaii is 100% federally funded, right? So some of it goes to the state, some of it goes to the city and county, but it's all federal monies. The state of Hawaii used to fund Section 8 up until 2001, which is why I introduced an empty home surcharge bill to refund Section 8, a state-funded Section 8. And so that's hopefully will be heard. But yes, it's terrifying what's happening with all of these executive orders and these freezes. As you may have read, the Attorney General for Hawaii is pursuing, working with other states to try to do an injunction to undo those freezes. But the question, of course, is, will the president even listen to the court? If the court says you must unfreeze, will he? So there's going to be a lot of chaos, a lot of fear. And here's the context. So even though I submitted a bill for pickleball courts, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, right, we're going to have to weigh people being housed people being fed, people getting medical stuff over recreation. And I know it's going to heartbreaking for pickleball players, but I'm hoping they'll understand if it doesn't get funded because of all these additional expenses that we're going to have to cover.
Thank you, Representative Iwamoto. Member Farinas, you had a question?
You actually answered my question regarding the empty homes tax. So welcome aboard, Representative Iwamoto.
Oh, one more thing, because Neighborhood Board Member Jeannie Rice, I know would be really happy to hear this, and maybe you guys already discussed it, but the dog park, you guys already talked about
No,
that?
I saw it in your newsletter.
Oh, sorry, the dog park is having its opening on February 8th, and I think that's a Saturday morning. So I know Neighborhood Board Member Jeannie Rice worked really hard on that, and she hopefully will be there. Yeah, so, and we're so grateful to former Representative Scott Psyche for getting that money and making that happen.
Thank you, Representative Iwamoto. Member Davis.
I just have one quick one, not necessarily just at you, but just all representatives that are kind of here. I know, again, people are still trying to understand what it's touching and what it's not. But, I know Title I funding for education here is a huge part of what funds our public education system. I know, Kaika, you're sitting on the education committee as well. But just, curious to hear more about that in upcoming months in terms of what it's gonna, or how it's gonna impact just the education system here and how the state plans to alleviate and or make up for any losses there. Because it'll be a big hit from my experience in how much the state is supported by Title I funds here.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Iwamoto, for being here in person this evening. Next, we have Senator Sharon Marwaki.
Aloha, everybody, and Happy New Year, I guess. It's good to be here. I do want to introduce my staff. Joe Kopshai is my CIP staff, and he will be here when I can't be here. The session started. We, in the Senate, introduced over 1,600 bills. So we are working hard on various issues: crime, homeless, as well as the insurance, as Representative Iwamoto said. They're really working hard on trying to fund it and trying to find ways in which it will break the bank as well. But it's very important. It's top of mind for the Senate. And I think just yesterday we had a briefing of both the House and the Senate looking at the condo insurance issues and how we're going to put together a program that will help those who are really suffering from high premiums. So on the homeless front, just a couple of bills. One is a return home bill. There was a program giving $100,000 last session to return people home if they have families or people who will accept them on the mainland or elsewhere. And that was really successful. I think we returned home a couple hundred people. So we're looking for expanding that program so that we can get people back home rather than here. Another program that has been very effective is the Institute of Human Services has a detox program. It works with drug and alcohol abuse clients, homeless. And they have been very successful as well. It's a really intense program, so no one else is doing. I think Hinamauka is starting a program, but we're also putting money into the Department of Health so that it would be an ongoing program because it's not going to go away, but it's been very effective. I think you have to watch them for over a week and really until they get detoxified. On the crime front, we are looking at, I don't know if you know much about ghost guns, but ghost guns has been a big problem. And what the police tell us is that these gangs, and going around and robbing, smash and grab, that use guns, they will use ghost guns, but they are in parts. So when they catch them, they can't really arrest them because they don't have a gun. They disassemble it. So what the law is to close that loophole is that every piece of the gun, especially to make it operable, has to be registered. So we'll see how that goes, but the prosecutor's office has been working with us in terms of getting it so that they can prosecute on those cases. But they're finding quite a few cases of ghost guns being disassembled and assembled to do the crime and then disassemble again. So that's one in the primary. In terms of noise, we're still going after mufflers, noisy mufflers. And I don't know, in the Waikiki area, because there's, well, even here, but there's a lot of condos and the trash noise, the trash collectors noise has been really like top of everybody's mind. We didn't know what to do because they're private. If you're in condos, you'll know that trash collection is done by private companies and not by the city. So they come at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, very loud. So we do have a bill in. I don't know how far it will go, but it is to start instituting like EV trash, incentives for EV trash collection. So that's like less noise. The condo thing is really front and center, and that is being done by our Consumer Protection Committee. Oh, and my committees are, I sit on the Ways and Means Committee, I'm vice chair. Also, the chair of the capital improvements bill, that's where what comes in. He's going to do heavy lifting pretty soon. And I also sit on the Labor and Technology Committee and the Government Operations Committee. So I've got like over 40 bills, I think I introduced. So I can't go over all of them, but there is a link, and not to take too much of your time, but you can always call my office and we are always there for you.
Thank you, Senator Moriwaki. Board members? Member Farinas.
Hi, congratulations
Hi,
again,
Laurie.
Senator
Yeah.
Moriwaki. On a personal note, as a condo owner, I want to thank you when you came over to One Archer Lane. You were so instrumental in shedding the light on the issue that we had in terms of our HOA fees rising more than 300%, and in terms of guiding us in directions in terms of getting a new management and whatnot. So I know you put your money where your mouth is, so thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for all of you folks too. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it. Okay. We are now moving on to Council Member Tyler DeSantos Tam or his office representative, Robin Hensky. Mr. Ben Sullivan from Mayor's office could not be here this evening, but he did send an email letting us know that he was unable to come. Representative Adrian Tam or his office representative.
Hey, I'm Katie. I'm the committee clerk for Rep Tam's office. He unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, so I guess I will share that, especially right now that the legislator, the state legislator and executive branch are working together to address the federal funding freeze, and we'll be providing further updates and information as it becomes available. He is sitting as the chair of the tourism committee and is a member of the economic development committee for this session. And I can bring back any questions if y'all have any.
Thank you. Questions from the board? No questions from the board. Thank you for being here this evening. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, Governor Green's representative, I saw Mr. William New earlier.
William New, governor's representative to the board. Just to reintroduce myself, I was here as a governor's rep for the past year or so, but as my team members have come on board, I'll be primary on this board for the next couple months throughout the legislative session. Just wanted to highlight that last week, Tuesday, the governor did his third State of State address, highlighting some of the initiatives and the progress that the governor's administration has done over the last several years. Key highlights are affordability, which doubled their earned income and food tax credits, Also, a range of initiatives for affordable housing, which accelerated the development of nearly 7,000 affordable housing units across the state, tracked over 62,000 units in development over the next decade, with 46,000 of them designated as affordable. And they're also requesting $500 million for housing initiatives in the upcoming biennium to support workforce housing and Native Hawaiian beneficiaries. The government has also implemented 18 Cal holidays now. I think there was one on Friday out in Waianae. So now there are 18 Cal holidays across the state. And it also includes allocating $50 million annually for additional Cal holiday developments. They wanted to spotlight that the governor launched a healthcare education loan repayment program, which is HELP, which addresses a shortage of healthcare professionals across Hawaii. One of the main goals of that is that it provides up to $50,000 in loan repayments if they work here in Hawaii for 2 years. So that is open to the general public or for healthcare professionals to apply and get that support. And as noted, the governor, we have a range of legislators who have been working on the issue of condo insurance over the last year or longer. I gave a quick briefing about it in my previous discussion earlier this meeting, but as I mentioned, I'll look for a public document of the white paper that can be transmitted over to the board and for anyone else to view accordingly. But once again, thanks. That's my report for today.
Thank you, Mr. New. Board questions? Member Davis.
The $50,000 in loan repayment, did you say that was for the health industry?
Yes, healthcare professionals. I think it's been going on for about 2 years now. I can
Okay.
drop more information into the chat as well.
Yeah, I'm curious if there's been any talk too about expanding that to the education. I'm looking at even just Senator Moriwaki's report that the state's looking for thousands of teachers. So I'd encourage that to be a consideration in encouraging teachers to stay and continue working in Hawaii, because the transiency and the teachers leaving the field, I know for a fact has increased in the last 5 to 10 years. And that may be a way to encourage teachers to stay and or enter the field in and of itself.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from board members? Hey, Mr. New, thank you for joining us this evening.
All right, thank you guys.
Okay, Congressman Ed Case's representative. Time is now 8:10. Announcements, neighborhood board elections are coming up February 21st. Is the voter and candidate registration deadline. Website is on there. For board members who would like to continue on, please remember to sign up so you can be elected on the board. We have our social media accounts. Next regular board meeting will be on Tuesday, February 25th. I didn't add on here the action committee meetings, but we are going to continue that. And we're broadcasted on Olelo. And we do want to thank Mr. Spencer Johnson for helping us out this evening and coming back and Millie's up. So thank you. And Olelo, thank you, Olelo and Spencer for being here this evening. And with that, our first meeting of the year is adjourned at 8:11 p.m.